Okay, now we have some security in place, but instead of writing authorizer equals something secret, I want to pass a token, and actually it will be an access token. So let's remove this something secret, and here let's add access token. Of course, we don't have it for now, so first create access token and set it to something secret for now. I want to grab the access token from our Cognito, and for that, let's use another library. I will copy this import fetch auth session from Amplify Auth. You don't have to install anything more. Now we can write a function which can grab a token. So let's write this function, and this function will be async function. We can call it load access token, and this function can try and catch errors. In catch, let's just console that error, failed to fetch the token. But in try, let's write const session is equal to await fetch auth session that we imported. This is a function from that auth library. Let's grab a token. So session.tokens, put this into variable tokens, and let's just console.log token. Of course, we have to call this load access token function. So let's do this here in use effect, load access token. And now we can see that we have an access token and ID token. And the thing that is interesting for me is this access token. So let's grab this one, access token. And now if we refresh, we have payload and toStrings, and let's use toString. And now we can see our token, this big, extremely big string. What we can do with this, just to show you, we can open JWT.io, and here we can paste this token that I copied. And we have information about the user, which is test user. We have information about this payload, some key, ID and algorithm, which is RS-256. It's not that important for us. And the third part, so this is the first part, then dot, then the second part, which is for payload. And then we have a dot in third part. This third part is a signature. And based on that third part, we can say that this token can be valid or invalid. Actually, we are not able to say this, but there is a library which can help us to determine if this token is valid or not. Now you have a basic idea of what we want to do. Let's again go to the code and return this token. So now, instead of just loading access token, we can search for a response and write then, and we are accepting access token. And here, let's just console.log that access token just in case we can see that nothing has changed and we can proceed with our code. So instead of console.log, I want to grab all this code about new socket listeners and creating a new socket connection and put it inside this block. We can remove console.log, and of course we can remove this access token, which was hard-coded before. Now we are setting new socket only when we have valid access token. We want to do the very same thing here in reconnect, so I will copy this code and put it here, and of course remove the old code. Great. How this works behind the scenes? This access token is valid for some period of time, for example 1 hour, but when access tokens are no longer valid, this fetch auth session will grab a new token. How it can grab a new token is that it can get it from a refresh token, and I don't want to go too deeply into that. But here our Cognito has 3 tokens. We saw 2 in the console, but there are actually 3. And the third is a refresh token. As long as we have the third refresh token, we can grab access token, and we can pass it now to our Lambda authorizer, which can check if this token is valid. Beautiful. Now let's go to the Lambda authorizer and rename index.mjs. I made a mistake earlier. Let's rename it to index.js. Open this file, and now we want to modify it a little bit. Now let's import JWT verifier. So const Cognito JSON web token verifier is equal to require AWS JWT verify. We want to set up our verifier, so const verifier. Our Cognito JSON web token verifier. Create, and here we want to specify user pool ID, token use, and lastly client ID. Token use is access token, so write access. For user pool ID and for client ID, we have to go to our AWS Cognito. So grab our user pool ID and paste it here, and also go to app clients and here grab client ID.
Learn from my mistake. Don't ignore the error message. You need to write exports, not export. We saw that we can retrieve the authorizer value sent by the JavaScript client from event.queryString parameters. Authorizer.
For example, this something secret. So let's go here, and instead of expecting that it will be something secret, it will be access token. So let's save it. We can remove this stupid statement and just comment this line because we will need it later. Now we can write another try-catch block. So try catch. For catch, we can just console.log token is not valid, but for try, let's write first payload is equal to await verifier access token. This line will fail if our token is not valid, and it will go to catch, which will trigger that token is not valid.
But if token is valid, then we want to modify our auth response.
Response. So response.policy document statement. Statement is a list. So let's grab the first element and then go to the effect and modify it to allow. Additionally, from this payload, we can grab a username, so payload. Username, and we can save this here in our context username. So again,
let's modify authResponse.context to username and set it to be payload.username.
Later, we can use this information, and in our Lambda function, we will have information about the username who actually wants to connect to our WebSocket API. This commented line now I can remove. Lastly, let's go to our terminal, to our Lambda authorizer.
And here we have to do npm init, and to install AWS JWT verify.
Finally, we can zip everything zip.rr, for example, into deployment.zip. Everything from this directory. Great. We have deployment zip. Now we can upload this deployment into our AWS Lambda authorizer function. Open tic-tac-toe authorizer function, select upload from zip file, and now we can upload, select our deployment.zip, and click save. Beautiful. We have our Lambda authorizer, and now we can just deploy our function, select deploy. And now let's test this. Refresh our application, and still we are able to join here, and it will not be possible if we don't have a valid JSON web token. So great. Now application is now secured.